yet. Sorry. Okay. All right. So as you guys hop on. I got Chinese food tonight. I'm excited about that. So hop on, guys. Hop on. I know it's been a while. I've been crazy busy. That's why I'm kind of in a rush today too, because it's been nuts. So how are you guys? Hello, hello. As you guys hop on, post a 1 below. So I have my group here, my page here. So as you guys hop on, post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live, okay? Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie, okay? So we're going to get going, talk about this really quick. It's weird, like having to look at 2 different screens. When I'm upstairs in my office, that's like 1 camera. So I apologize about that. I know you guys don't care though. I know. But I'm excited to talk about things today. Oh my gosh, it's so crazy, the things that are happening today. And, 293 IEPs later, after COVID happened, I feel like on Thursday, next Thursday, will be like when I can finally breathe, right? And it has been crazy. All right. And when I say crazy, I mean crazy, guys, like really crazy. All right. And it's unfair because parents should not be going through as much as they are. So again, post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Okay. Hi, Tamra. How are you? I know it's like 5 o'clock in certain areas, 3 o'clock in certain areas. I get that. So you guys might catch this later. So that's okay. So if you're watching the replay, make sure you post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live, and post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Okay. So I got my group, my page here, my group here. All right. So here's what I want to talk about today. Okay. Hi, Helen. How are you? Yes. Keep posting. Hi, Kristen. Hi, Leanne. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Adriana. Hello. All right. So yes, post a 1 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Or no, flip that. 1 below if you're new. Okay, first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. All right. Okay. So here we go. You ready for this shit? So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. Now, what I seem to be doing lately is pissing a lot of people off. And so I want to address that. And, more than likely they're going to see me on my page, not my group, because I'm very cautious of, school districts of my clients being on my group. I make sure that my team makes sure that that's not something that happens. Okay. So they're not allowed in the group, because I like the privacy of my parents in the group. Not all of them being clients, but I like to respect that. So with that said, we're going to first address that. Okay. So scare tactics that school districts do. They do multiple things. Like for advocates, cease and desist letters. I just dealt with one with a client and one of my parents, and, I dealt with one like last month, and what it is, I know what it is. It's because I have a very aggressive approach, and I do that very purposefully because, parents do not say, hey, I really need an advocate to, help me argue about what is really needed for my child because I just can't do it on my own. That's not what I said, and I tried to do it by myself and screwed up all over the place. But parents, as a parent myself, like I didn't want to think in my head that, oh, I can't really do this. You know what I mean? But I couldn't. And, sometimes we need that help, whether it's an attorney, an advocate, whatever, could be a neighbor. But bottom line, when you have somebody come in, all right, you always have to expect that the school district's going to be pissed off, okay? They're going to feel, I don't want to say threatened, but it's almost like from their actions, that's how they feel. That's just an assumption. But in my mind, my mother always taught me, actions speak louder than words. enough said there. I think it says a whole lot just in that one sentence. But, with parents, so with advocates, they come after you like that. It's like, whatever. I have myself and my parents, we respond and it's a done deal. We don't hear from them again. But I'm also not intimidated by that. All right. Now, you take someone new to the whole advocacy arena, okay? A mom, a dad, a grandma, whatever. And you finally start advocating for your child, your grandchild, and the school system just, bam, comes out the gate attacking you. And what that is a shutdown tactic. They want to shut you down just like that in any way, shape, or form so that you shut up. That's what they want. They want you, and you, and you to shut up. The quicker they get you to shut up, the better for them, right? So plan to be hated, I guess. I mean, I think I've almost embraced it, okay? I had a parent tell me today who called me, all right? And she said, look, I'm calling you again. The IEP that you got together for my son, the school district lost it. It's no longer in existence. Okay. And I said, what? It just didn't make sense, and, those are the games that school districts play. See, I came into play. Mom and dad thought all was good. And then the minute I came out of play, bam, that IEP was non-existent, gone, history. All right. Now that sounds crazy, right? I'm like, what do you mean? They're like, no, they sent us a different IEP and said this is the one that was in play. And it was nothing compared to the one that we discussed. And I said, well, fortunately enough, I have the whole thing on recording. So, literally going page by page by page by page as the school district is typing it all in. One party states, okay? But it's beautiful, We have to stick up for ourselves and our kids, okay? Don't allow, and here's the crazy thing is, why is the people that do the right thing get accused of doing something crazy, or that we're made to feel like we're doing something wrong, So, dear God, we went after the school system because they weren't giving our children FAPE or what's needed and appropriate or services or accommodations or one-on-one or whatever it is. And we're going to get into ESY in a minute because that's a whole new gamut these days. It's crazy, all right? And you guys need to know that you don't have to feel afraid, all right? I've heard parents say, I am scared to death. This is what they said they were going to do. I've even had parents tell me that their child wasn't going to get something if they said this, that, and the other again. All right. And so you don't want to do that. Parents have been backed into corners one too many times, not just parents, but grandparents, just people that, even foster parents who are advocating for these kids. And, it's really, really unfortunate. I burst down crying today. I don't know why I'm crying a lot lately. I think I'm just like 293 IEPs down, and I'm just so frustrated. And so, school districts are, and of course I put my camera on blank, but bottom line, the frustration level that I have right now is off the chain. And the reason for that is because school districts are consistently, I really don't know where you get your energy from. I'm still exhausted for yesterday. Yeah. Trying to figure out why they're so opposed to giving kids that truly need something what they need. I'll give you an example, and I've talked about this before, I think a couple days ago, is I have, a nonverbal child, all right? That child, okay, has never been offered an assistive technology device. Never been offered an assistive technology assessment, AAC, okay? Some people call it AAC, AT, same thing, guys. But it's insane to me, all right? How do you, and okay, here's the kicker. Here's the real kicker. But the school system feels that it's completely appropriate for them to only give this nonverbal child 20 minutes every other week. What do y'all think about that? Nonverbal, 20 minutes every other week, because that's way more than enough. That is what we're going to give him. I've learned so much from you this year. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Dorothy. Don't forget, guys, post a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live, 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie, okay? Feel free to share this. And so, you know, I had a conversation with you guys the other day, and I said, I get that I am that advocate that does not come into play and say, let's all get along. That's not me. Don't ever hire me if that's what you want. Because in my mind, people don't hire me unless there's a problem and they've been, I wanted to use a certain word, messed around with one too many times. Okay, let me just keep it PG. But here's the deal. All right. So one of my, well, this has happened a lot with many of my parents, but I'll just talk about one. She said to me, you know, Raven, I hired, you know, I got a lady from the ARC, you know, and I thought that, you know, they were reputable and they are out there. I don't know anything about them. Okay. So this isn't a personal thing, but I'm hearing this over and over and over and over from multiple parents. I'm just talking to you about one. And, you know, they're saying, you know, I got this person from the ARC, or I got this person from the state. Or even today, a lady said, you know, the deputy assistant superintendent of the DOE referred her to this other advocacy person. And I've said to you guys, I don't care if you bring me on, okay? I don't. You guys got to pick somebody that is good for you when you need somebody, okay? But what I'm saying to you, and I've said this over and over and over and over, all right? Watch who you hire who is paid by the state, okay? The money comes from one bag of chips, all right? Let me read something to you. Those outside of the institution, or those who rely on the institution, can't understand why it won't change. Why it fights those of us trying to make it better. The true, clear answer is in this explanation, and it is the greatest obstacle in what I do for many of my clients. They are the first through the wall, and that takes courage, okay? Same goes for educators trying to make a difference from the inside. Okay, that came from the movie Moneyball, all right? And it's genius. I'm going to post the video where this dialogue takes place. But the verbiage right there that I read to you was genius, all right? So those of us who want to do the right thing, we're ridiculed and, you know, told we're doing the wrong thing. I can't tell you how many times I've been told, what's the word? Cassette, what's the word? Look, I'm asking you. Belligerent. Oh, I am belligerent every day. Every day, I'm belligerent. I don't even know what that freaking word means. And I'm not going to look it up because I don't care. I really have an idea what it means. But bottom line, people will say, you're this, and you're this, and you're this, and you're this. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how dare you point fingers at me for advocating for a child that you are not doing the right thing by? How dare you? Now, if I wasn't doing right by a child or I wasn't doing right by someone, cool. Call me out. I give you all permission. Okay? Do I make mistakes? Of course. But does everybody make mistakes? Of course. But don't you dare call me out. If I'm advocating for a child, you've already screwed it up. You're already not providing what's needed and appropriate for the child. And I can't even tell you the umpteen million different violations that schools are doing these days that is driving me absolutely insane. And they think that it's okay, and they continue to do it until somebody comes in and wobbles that train, and all of a sudden they're like, oh shit, and then attack. That's what's happening. Okay? So then what's happening is people that are not me are scared. I would be scared. I would be scared if I didn't have the history that I do. Okay? I have a history of having to gain this tough skin. Okay? It's not like it just came. I'm just not a hard ass, that sort of thing. But, I was talking to someone the other day, and, they were like, the parent. Did I tell you guys about that? Did I tell you guys about that? I didn't. Oh my God. I got to tell you guys this stuff. Okay. Real quick. I'm backtracking. You know me. All right. I always figure out something I'm going to tell you guys about that I did not tell you already. Okay. I had a teacher call me about one of my kids. All right. No joke. I'm in a meeting. I'm in the middle of a meeting. I was in the middle of your meeting because I think it was your meeting. I'm not sure. Was it your meeting? I don't remember. I've had so many meetings. They're all discombobulated. So I get a text message. I'm going to even show you the text message. I'm not going to show you. I don't have the person's name in here. I told this person that I'm not going to, ever mention their name. I'm not going to throw them under the bus. It was during your meeting, or did I tell you about it? So this is what she said. I want to read the exact words to y'all, so hang on. Okay, here we go. Okay, so it was in your meeting. All right. So she said, Miss Woods, this is someone with a vested interest in one of your clients. Please give me a call so that I can share with you something that may be helpful. I'll explain when you call. So I'm in my meeting, so I of course said, who is this? And she says, please give me a ring and I'll identify myself. I would like to keep things private via text. All right, so I'm going to cross out the phone number, and I'm going to show you guys that that's what she had said. Oh, look, I put the phone number. All right, there you go. Can you see? All right, so she basically said, all right, so I'm going to have to go in and edit that. So she basically said, when I called her, she said, I'm moving, blah, 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 and I wanted to let you know that, this has really upset me because, this student has behavior issues, and this student has a tendency to fly off the handle at times, and is an amazing kid, but is in a different school because of the behaviors. All right. And so she said she's going to be having her new teacher for next year is a brand new teacher, no experience. So she said that really makes me nervous because I know what you're doing. I respect what you're doing. She said you're a lot to handle in an IEP meeting, but you are good at what you do. And, I see what you're doing. So I want you to know that this is not a good thing. And this is not against any new teachers, by the way. And she even said herself, I'm a second-year teacher, and this has been difficult for me. So I'm telling you this because I want you to talk to the mom. I want you to figure out what you can do because this is going to set the child backwards. Then she even admitted, which I completely respect. She said, and to be quite honest with you, she has regressed this year because she has goals that this teacher actually didn't write, by the way. But she said she has goals that are so complicated. Here, this is kind of, there we go. She said she has goals that are so complicated that it's almost impossible for me to help her master them. So, of course, I did say, I said, well, why did you never bring the parent to the table? Why did you never, address this? That is your fault. And she said, I know. I take that on. I take full responsibility for that. Things have just really been crazy with, summer and figuring this all out. And, I didn't realize in the beginning that, the goals were the way they were. And so it is what it is. But the fact that she came forward and the fact that she cared enough about this child to say, hey, she's going to regress if this happens. She's going to regress, even more so than she already is, which is about 2.5 years. And then the worst part of it is, the child met the teacher. So, I of course email the school district and I say, hey, mom told me that, the child, I'm not going to say names, has met her teacher for next year. That's so awesome. Can you give me her name and her experience and credentials? So the school district, not the new school or the private school she's at, but the school district then responds, the administration, and says, oh, she hasn't had, a new teacher assigned yet. When literally this teacher physically came in and met the child. All right. So then this administrator blatantly lied to me and the mom, because the mom's of course CC'd. And I'm like, really? That's funny because the child said XYZ. So, of course, I haven't received a response since then. Why lie? That's such a simple thing. And if the teacher's been introduced to the child, why would you not say, hey, yeah, I so-and-so brought her to the school. She met her, blah, blah, blah. Now I can see hiding the first year part, but why would you say one hasn't even been assigned? Doesn't make sense, right? So it's a bit frustrating, these things that are happening. So now going back to, the things that schools do. Now to you guys, not advocates, but to you guys, what the schools are doing in like retaliation and scare tactics is they'll call CPS on you. Or they'll do, where if your child's not, at school, what the heck's it called? Truancy. They'll threaten that. Or I have a student where the parents were told that the child wouldn't even graduate because they didn't want to count the child in school because he was going to a class that he was supposed to go to, that because the school just withdrew him from this class without a PWN, they were marking him absent. So he was going to a class, he was in high school, he was going to a class that he was supposed to be in, but because the school withdrew him from that class and put him in another class that was not special ed, parents said keep going to the special ed class, and all of a sudden he's marked absent. So it's crazy, the things that are happening. So just expect it to be stressful. Expect to go into it thinking two things. Well, really, you have two choices. All right, I tell parents you got two choices. You're gonna A, go do what you got to do, stick up for your child, fight until the end, until you get what you need to get so that your child has everything they possibly need to make progress in the educational setting and to become productive adults. All right, whatever it is you have to do. Or choose to not and accept what the school offers you, not bitch about it, and whatever decision you make, own it, digest it, and live with it. Those are your two choices. 1, fight. 2, accept what's being given to you, whatever that is, and be happy with your decision. All right? You're the parent, you're the guardian, you're the grandparent, whatever, you make the decision. All right? But whatever decision you make, don't go bitching about it and accept the fact that you made that decision. Don't make excuses as to why you made that decision. All right? Because once you make a decision, and you should make a decision, own it. Nobody wants to hear the excuse part. Okay? I respect anybody's decision. Other people should respect your decisions. You should respect other people's decisions. As long as they're not affecting us, respect other people's decisions, whatever they are. But don't go making decisions and then bitching about them and having excuses as to why you made them and making it this big thing. All right? So just make a decision and run with it. Okay? So when it comes to my son's going into the 4th grade this fall for ESY meeting, the district has now started bringing their legal counsel. Yeah. Is there any hope that they will stop bringing their lawyer for the rest of my son's education years? They said the only reason they're there is because I counterfiled due process against. Well, that's why. I come in contact with a lot of attorneys. Attorneys can kiss my ass, for real. All right, I hope y'all hear it. Kiss my ass. Literally, they come in and they run meetings thinking that they own the meeting as if they're any part of the meeting. They are not. They don't know, unless they are extensively know and have an extensive amount of knowledge about your child. They do not belong in an IEP meeting. Now, if they want to sit back in their rocking chair and chit-chat and text their client, by all means. But stay the hell out of the IEP meeting and stop running your mouths. Okay? Because what you have to say, nobody cares. The parent doesn't care. I don't care. Nobody cares. So, if they're going to represent their client, represent your client. Don't go talking in an IEP meeting about shit you don't know nothing about. Y'all belong in court and whatever it is you do there. All right? Their experience is typically not in IEPs, all right? There's no IEP law school, all right? You got to learn that stuff. And think about how little attorneys are in, hi, Sky, our attorneys are in an IEP, Mm-hmm. So, okay. So it's one of those things where, today, I finally said to the attorney, I said, just stop talking. Just stop. Let me know when you're done. Just stop. I'll sit here. I'll wait. When you're done talking, then we can finish this meeting. Just let me know when you're done. Because no one's listening to what you say. I'm not. The parent isn't. So I guess half the team's listening to you, but we're not. So please let us know when we can talk about the child and actually focus on the child and what's important here, not you running your mouth and covering your client's ass who's not doing right by the child. And I'll say that straight up to them. Ask Cassette. I will say that straight up to them, all right? Attorneys all the time try to threaten advocates. I'm not the only one, okay? And, the funny thing is the biggest thing they try to get advocates on is acting. I know that darn traffic. Is getting, is an advocate acting as an attorney. And I've never gotten that. I've, had some say, oh, you're this, you're this, you're this. I don't give a shit. I don't want to be an attorney. Go have fun with that, okay? I know everybody tells me, go to law school, but it's like the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, not my thing, because I do a hell of a good job at what I do, and I don't need to be an attorney, I don't want to be in court. You know what I mean? I want to keep parents out of court. I want them getting their children what they need. You know what I mean? So, I've kind of, I guess because my brain and everything's trained with that I'm pretty fluent in, I never advise. It's always based off my experience. And so, don't let, even if I know other advocates watch me, don't let that intimidate you. It's such a scare tactic and ridiculous, okay? And what it is they don't like that you know more than them a lot of the times. And that is okay for an advocate to know more than attorneys when it comes to IEPs, because that's where they belong. All right. Just like attorneys know more about, going to court and, all of that kind of stuff. It is what it is. And, the thing is it's not that advocates don't know about, court or due process or whatever. I have a huge letter showing that I am an approved qualified advocate in many states. Okay? So in my mind, I'm like, attorneys just have to back off, going into IEP meetings, because it's not just, they don't offend us, they offend the parent. And parents don't deserve that. So even though I say, don't worry about it, it's no big deal, don't even talk to them, But the point is it's very true what OSEP says. Attorneys come into IEPs and they create a sense of hostility, and that creates an atmosphere that is very anxiety driven and not healthy. All right? So in IEP meetings, where you're going to get me going is one that you're going to act like you can just do what you want to do. That's not going to happen. And two, if you think that you're going to have so many procedural or, substantial violations and not do something to correct that, because that's all I expect. I just want you to correct it. And then feel like you can just do whatever it is that you want to do, say whatever it is that you want to say, and not be called out, because I'm going to call you out on every last bit. All right? So, that's what schools don't like. And they don't like, being called out. I guess nobody does, right? Hey, Aaron, how are you? Alyssa says, do you think that my son not being potty trained should be a big factor of him being placed in mod severe class? What's the difference between mild to severe? How do I answer that question? Okay, so look, Aaron, I got Chinese food. I'm not eating tortillas this time. Look, can you see it? Okay. So see, I eat other foods other than like burritos and stuff. My favorite's Italian. Alyssa, here's the deal. If they're putting your child in a mod severe class or whatever, just because your child is not potty trained, in my opinion, that I know is right because I've done it, is discrimination. A 504 violation, where they'll say, oh, well, we can't have a child that's not potty trained in a gen ed classroom. Bullshit. Yes, you can. Okay, and then you give them a one-on-one, because that's what's needed, so that one-on-one can take them out and go wherever they need to go to, do the bathroom thing. All right, and you do what you gotta do. That's what they need to understand in schools. And schools these days seem to float on the fact that things are just going to be convenient for them. I mean, how dare them give a one-on-one to somebody instead of a one-on-one 1 to 4 or 1 to 3 or 1 to 2, because holy heck, they have to hire someone else. Can you imagine? As if people these days aren't actually wanting jobs. Oh, let's not forget, we would not want to put a dent in their budget. The bureaucracy is horrible. Horrible. The more you understand that back end part of special education and education in general, the better. Okay. So I don't know anything about your son, Alyssa, but if there's no behavior issues or just mild, and he just isn't potty trained, or he's behind, or something along those lines, unless there's like a big behavior issue, he can go to gen ed. Why not? Why not model? Remember I was telling you guys about that idea I had that I'm going to start doing, and giving it a time frame to figure out if it's working or not. Because I love the puzzle. I want to see, hey, let's try this. Let's give it 90, days, maybe 4 months. Look, see, my math sucks. I had to say 90 days and then 4 months. See, I'm calling myself out. But at the same time, you're giving it a period of time. You're not saying, oh, yeah, this does work. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, shoot, the whole goal of IDEA is to be in the least restrictive environment. So, shoot, these kids with special needs, why not stick them in the gen ed classroom? All right? Unless it's absolutely not possible, of course, put them in the gen ed classroom, take them out for resource, for example, for reading and math, all right? And then also utilize that opportunity with giving them a one-on-one, and then the ability to putting into accommodations that they're able to be taken out for breaks, or that they have a bean bag at the end of, in the back of the classroom just for them, and to be able to de-escalate. There's so many ideas that I've thought of, and schools are like, because God forbid they actually try something new that actually would work, because what they're doing is not working. But the thing is until you fight for it, I mean, the reason, and I've always said, the reason that in the end I'm very successful is because I'm persistent. That's the reason, is I will not let up. And you've got to push for those things, all right? Put my child in the gen ed setting, least restrictive environment, which is what the gen ed is. Get them all the services they need, get them a one-on-one, and get them, the accommodations that is going to accommodate them so that they're able to be in the gen ed classroom. And the reason I say that is because they're then modeling behavior that is age appropriate, all right? Just like when you have kids, all right? You have the firstborn and they're spoiled freaking rotten. Then you have another one, and what happens is that, little one then models the firstborn, all right? And a lot of times the second child will do things a lot quicker than the first child, because they're mirroring and modeling their sibling, all right? So it's one of those things where, there's so much science behind that, of children being in a gen ed classroom, because they model that behavior. They're able to get things under control. And especially in the lower grades, it's an amazing thing when you have that little buddy system and they make friends, and the other kids help them. And little kids, usually 4th grade and under, they love it. They love being part of helping Sarah or helping Joe, So I like that dynamic. It's something that I think works. I've seen it work, and why not give it a shot, see if it works for 90 days to, 4 months. And then if it doesn't, it doesn't. And you go back to, a special education classroom for the most part, and then you're mainstreamed, or some people call it inclusion. But you're really mainstreamed into the gen ed classroom. So, that's an idea, okay? And they may say, no, your child can't do that, all right? Well, when they say that, your comment is, well, have we ever tried it before? Have we ever tried putting my child in the gen ed setting? And they're going to say no. And you're going to say, well, in accordance to IDEA, it says that unless it is completely impossible to put my child in the gen ed setting, that's where they belong, with all the accommodations and modifications that my child needs in order to make progress. So this is what we're going to do. And so then you lead into what you're looking for. So it's smart to make your plan first. But the biggest thing, guys, is number one, don't be intimidated by schools. Don't be intimidated by attorneys. Think about it like this. They're going to tell you anything, feed you anything to get you off their back. If that's a scare tactic, whatever it is, okay? As of recent, I've had 2 IEPs where the IEP was literally put in place, gone through page by page, okay, recorded, mind you, and then the school district provides an IEP that is nothing that we went over page by page. I mean, literally on the screen, page by page. And then you're going to provide something different? Explain that to me. Doesn't make any sense. But it just shows, you know, the weaselly things that they do. But it's happening all the time. All right? So to have this mentality right now that I do not have of let's all get along, that just ain't happening right now. I am exhausted. All right? Because they are horrible right now. All right? There's times where school districts are really great. There's times where we finally come together and work as a team. But damn, why does it have to be so hard, you know? It's frustrating. Anybody else frustrated like that? Melissa says, my son will be in gen ed in 2nd grade. You have to fight and be persistent for sure. I take no crap. Love your advice, Raven. Oh, thank you. Helen says, I love your attitude and courage. And yes, Dorothy, they do that to scare you. And Kim says they bring attorneys because they want to protect themselves from the wrong they have done. Of course. I mean, I've always said that, you know, like, why would a school system bring an attorney? Why would they feel that they need to bring an attorney? They like are double us. You know what I mean? There's like me and then just say 2 parents. And then there's 10 of them. You know what I mean? So it's like, why would they need to bring an attorney? I've told you guys, I've asked myself, why do they need to bring an attorney? I mean, am I scary? Did I do something wrong? What did I do that they feel like they need an attorney? Are they intimidated? Are they offended because I called them out on their bullshit? What is it? You know, I know that because being transparent like I am and am pretty much out there, and I'm totally cool if people want to judge because everybody does. So why would I care? I guess I'm just too old for that. I'm getting ready to turn 43. I don't care. I don't care if they want to judge me. I don't care. I really don't care. And the thing is I've had to get that type of attitude and be transparent with everything I do, because even when I screw up, okay, whatever, I screwed up, you know, because if I don't, then they'll use that against you. So I've had to learn that really quick, you know, that shoot, if I do something wrong, just go live, tell everybody about it, let them judge and be done with it. Because if not, a school system they'll call you out on kinds of shit. And, you know, I think because they know that I'm no bullshit, they don't. Please. There's nothing that you can say about me that is going to hurt me, because I know it all. You know? And I will own it all. Unlike you, you know? So that's the difference, is I will own my shit. Why don't you? You know, don't go attacking someone else until your stuff's fixed, you know? And so I just get really frustrated at that. So I'm going to end it with that, because I could go on and on and on of all the frustrations, but I will leave it at that. Don't be frustrated at the fact that they bring an attorney. Screw it. Don't talk to the attorney. Literally ignore them, okay? And if they talk to you, tell them, say, do not talk to me. You are not part of this team. And then move forward with talking to the team. If you don't do that, then they'll take advantage of it. They'll think it's okay. And then, you know, your shit's history at that point. All right? Never let them see that you're nervous, okay? Or never let them see that you're trying to do your best and you're doubting yourself and you're just trying to get that confidence. We all go through that learning phase, and just don't let them see it. Put on that face. You know what? That is a good, write that down, Aaron. Put that down on our t-shirts. All right. That is a t-shirt. I need to come up with a good design for it, but that needs to be a t-shirt. Put on that face, your IEP face. Okay. So, who was it who said something? Thank you. How can you become my son's advocate? Just message me on WhatsApp. Okay? That's the best way to get me, is WhatsApp. Because it comes to my phone, it comes to my computer, and here, I'll post this. And I'm able to, really get a hold of you. Did it post? There we go. So that's something that you want to be mindful of. So moving on. Okay. I want you guys to pay attention to this one. ESY. All right, here, I'll give you guys what I just posted. Okay. All right. So, I'm realizing one of their biggest excuses lately is, well, let's kind of go back. One of the number one things that they're doing is, this is what we're offering. Here you go. Here's your meat and potatoes and broccoli. This is what we're offering. Take it or leave it. Okay? That's the first thing. Number two, they're then saying, oh, it's from, this time to this time. This is part of the take it or leave it. And they'll say, oh, it's 3 days a week, 4 days a week, whatever. And they just kind of leave it at that. Like, you're supposed to just go with the flow. And so it's important to call them out on that. All right. So the first thing is, if they say, I can't, or you can't do this, or you can't have that, because this is what we're offering. Number one, that's a predetermination. They predetermined what was going to happen with your child without you present. Okay? That's also making decisions without all equal team members. Okay? One of the things I'm catching the teams on is they'll say, well, we already talked about it, and this is what we're offering. Who talked about it? Were we involved? Did you invite us to that party? No, I don't think so. I haven't been to any parties lately. I want to go to a party. Someone needs to invite me to a party. But anyway, that's what they'll say. So then call them out. Oh, when was that team meeting? Was I invited? And then they'll say something. And then you say, no, I don't think I was invited to that one. What team are you talking about? Because it wasn't me. And if I don't recall, this is how I say it. I'm a real smartass. If I don't recall, I'm part of that team too. Parents, says in the idea, and even in every state on the DOE websites, parents, grandparents, guardians are equal team members. So if the team meets to talk about your child, why the hell were you not invited? How was this generic ESY just built and offered kindly to you when it's an individualized education plan? I for individualized, meaning it is not about the population of children. It is not about Tony and Sarah. It's not about Elizabeth and Ryan. It's not about Kim or Stephanie or Jesse and Melissa or Raven. It's about your one child with that IEP. I don't care what the masses are doing. I don't care what is convenient to the school. What I care about is that an individual plan is created in order for that child to make progress and grow and to feel that sense of accomplishment. Because verbal or nonverbal, they can feel that. And they can feel that sense of accomplishment. And they deserve to have it. Okay? So to offer a plan that is not surrounded by everything that is needed for your child, then that plan needs to go into the trash can and it needs to never come about again. And you need to make it clear to your teams. When they've said that, and they said, okay, so this is what we're offering for ESY, or a lot, I think I told you guys, they're sending questionnaires to parents. Hey, answer this questionnaire and we'll sign you up for ESY. Okay, no. They're sending emails is what I've gotten too from parents. And they're saying things like, hey, your child qualifies for, because what they're not wanting to do is meet with you in an IEP meeting and discuss it. I've had to actually make teams, like I had an attorney email me and she said, oh, we're not going to meet till the beginning of the year to talk about, you know, the IEP and next year and blah, 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 blah. And I was okay with it just because, you know, the parents getting an IEE were kind of summarizing stuff. So it happening within the first 15 days of school, we were cool with that. You know, it was pretty much put together. But then I remembered that ESY had been discussed, but not the plan of action put in place. So she's pissed off. She's saying next year, I sucked it up because I really didn't care, and neither did mom because we were doing an IE anyway. So we were fine within the first 15 days of school. So like she thinks she's punishing us and we really didn't care. And so I emailed her back and I said, well, we actually do have to meet because we didn't cover ESY. So she emails back and says, yeah, you guys did cover ESY and you talked about, you know, that he qualifies. I said, you're right. We did. We did talk about that he qualifies. But what we didn't talk about is how that plan of action for ESY is going to look. How is their day going to look? How many hours are they going to be in ESY? What goals are they going to work on? Because there's no point in working on all the goals. You want your child to get better at certain things. You don't want them working on the grand scheme of things in 50 million different things that they're supposed to be aiming at maybe for a year, you know? You want them to work on specific goals that are specific to that child and right here and now. That's what ESY is all about. So that they don't lose things, so that they don't regress, that they need things that they need to recoup. So for example, if, you know, like my daughter, she learned an analog clock years ago, all right? And then all of a sudden she didn't have that as a goal and then she lost it. So we had to then go back and repeat that, which is why a lot of goals that your child may master, you want to put back into the IEP just as a goal here and there that is continuously, you know, kind of worked on here and there to make sure that that mastery stays put. Okay. Hi, Stephanie. How are you? Yes, put a 1 below if it's your first through third time catching me live. Post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. Okay. So that is really important. So don't let schools just be like, oh yeah, your child qualifies and get all excited. I've said this multiple times in the last couple weeks, but I know a lot of people are coming on and new to the group and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And I want you guys to really know that do not allow them to say, oh, your child qualifies. And then you get all excited because your child finally qualified for ESY. All right. Or I even had a school district say, no, they don't really qualify, but we're going to do compensatory services that we're giving to all children because of COVID. Come on. All right. Save bullshit. That's not what you're doing. All right, but they're using that excuse to make you think that they're doing those things. They're not. All right, they don't want you coming after them, so they're using verbiage that they know that you've heard of this year, and they're kind of trying to mask what is really going on. All right, and the things that school systems are saying, parents are hearing that, and then they'll come to me or they'll ask me a question, and I'm saying, what? No, that's not true. You need to focus on your child. I don't know. Someone's messaging me on WhatsApp or something. Sorry, guys. So it's like, I don't know how to turn the darn, what's it called off? The alert notification thing on my Mac. So it goes off all the time. And so please don't fall for that. All right. If you're going to talk about ESY, fine. Talk about ESY. So when you're going to talk about ESY, this is what you're going to talk about. Does he qualify? Usually there's like 3 or 4 questions. Okay, yes, he qualifies. All right, well, there's 7 areas in which they qualify, as you guys know. And, there's 3 questions you have to ask to see if the child, needs it, so to speak. But they still have to be, surrounded by the 7 areas in which pertain to ESY, if that makes any sense. I'm going to pull it up in a second, my document. But the thing about ESY, I'll tell you, is that I've always said this. All right, here it is. Is I think all children with special needs need ESY. Okay, let me take that back. I don't mean all, most. Okay, and so here's the kind of like the decision maker, if you will. All right. The first thing is that you need to consider for ESY is regression. All right. Does the student lose what they've learned during the school year, if they've even made progress with what's going on today? Then they qualify based under regression. If for recoupment would be number 2, and that is based on the capacity in which they recover that information. All right, so they get back to school, and it takes them 6 months to get back what they had at the end of the year previous. All right. The third reason is regression / recoupment, and what that is whether the student has difficulties with regression and recoupment. All right, that's just together. Then there is mastery. So what that means is to the extent to which the student has mastered and consolidated important skills, behaviors, to the point where educational programming is interrupted, basically. All right, so are those important skills or behaviors at the point where their education's been interrupted? I kind of didn't say that right in the first, so it has to do with being interrupted. The 5th thing would be self-sufficiency and independence. That's kind of your ADLs, okay? So that's to the extent in which a skill or behavior is particularly crucial for the student to meet the IEP goals, okay? Does that make sense, guys? And even more so with that one, to kind of elaborate, self-sufficiency and independence is key. All right. The 6th one is successive interruptions. So what that means is to the extent that these successive interruptions in educational programming result in basically the withdrawal, the elimination of educational progress. All right. And then the 7th one is the severity of the disability. So whether the student's disability, for example, autism, serious emotional disturbance, severe intellectual disabilities, degenerative impairments, mental involvement, and multiple disabilities, the 13 categories, okay? Dependent on how severe it is, they can qualify based on that. All right, the schools will say, when they go over their qualifications of ESY, etc. It's like 3 to 4 questions, but it's based on this stuff. So they just make it into 3 questions, and it almost makes it to where it's harder to answer. All right. So if you want, I will create a document, a free document that I will post in the group under docs, which I need to start doing more and more of, is posting these documents, and I will allow you guys to download it and whatever. Okay, so if you're not part of the group, over here on the page, put in Autism Mama Rocks the IEP group. Look, I'm talking to the group over here. Is this the group or page? This is the group. Autism Mama Rocks the IEP group. All right, and you can join the group. Look, I'm talking to you guys in the group. Okay, I haven't lost my mind. I'm just, I'm kidding. No, I'm just kidding. So, hi, Stephanie. ESY is a good idea, but sometimes not much done there. Yeah, that's true, and I think that also has to do, and tell me your thoughts, is I think a lot of it has to do with how that plan of action is put in place. It does not have to be put in place like this generic thing that is just said that they provide. They can't just do that. They actually have to consider, other means, like ESY services can include just instructional materials taken home. That may be all a child needs. And then the assistance of like once a week checking in with the teacher, et cetera, et cetera. It could be behavioral training, programs for staff, all right, and parents and trainings. It could be related services, all right? It can be consultations. It can be tutorials. It can be services outside and contracted through the community. Like I was telling you guys, my daughter did therapeutic horseback riding, and she did a special needs drama camp. I mean, it was great, she did ABA therapy, and they took her to like the store, and she'd have to buy things, and they did the whole money. And, she had to she went to different places to basically learn daily, functional living skills. So do not allow them to limit you to, oh, we only have ESY at, Raven's home school because that's the only place we're having it this year. And, that's the only place we're having it. So that's your only choice. And, we might not have transportation. This was something that came up today. We may not have transportation set up right away, but, you can take your child to school, and, we'll let you know when we contacted transportation so that your child can, be transported, to ESY. So, but it may not be, set up right away. So you got to, be able to take your child to school and all. Okay. And, we only do it. All we have is 3 hours a day, and, that's it. So this is all we're able to provide, and that's what our school system does. So, we can't do anything more. That's just what we offer. So, we're sorry about that. We wish we could offer you more, but we're really sorry. That's just not something that we can do. We offer one thing, for ESY, and it's at Raven's home school. And if you can't go to Raven's home school this year, we're really sorry. Maybe next year. Don't fall for that, guys. Okay? Don't fall for it. Okay, so Stephanie says, I thought about this also. That's why I've tried to educate myself as much as possible so that I only need an attorney or legal side of things. So that what? Kim says, come on up and we can party. Hi, BB, how are you? I'm like, oh my gosh, once Thursday comes, I don't know if I know some of you probably aren't into country. See, I like everything. I got bipolar disorder with music. Like, I'm all over the place. Like, I'll listen to anything. But other than heavy metal, I can't do heavy metal. Can't do it. You know, that headache shit. You know, my grandmother used to tell me, she was like, I could scream and go make money. But no, I like all kinds of different music. But, you know, one guy I've really started liking a lot is Kip Moore. And I'm going to see him next Friday night. So let's just say I'm going to let a little bit loose, because Thursday is my last IEP for a little while, because I'm going to be going on vacation at the beginning of July, and then the end of July, beginning August. But I thought, I was like, oh, I'm going to take a couple weeks off. Nope. I got a due process coming up, 3 mediations coming up. Possibly another due process coming. So much for that. Is learning disabilities qualify for like an IEP? That is under typically like an OHI. It just depends. I don't know. There's so many different learning disabilities, Karina. So, but yes, if your child, you know, if the learning disability impacts them in the educational setting, yes. My answer was in response to Tamara's. Oh, yeah. So I wasn't paying attention to that. Sorry. Does any of you ladies know a good attorney? I'm trying to get one, but no luck. My son was diagnosed in 2009 with autism, but no, he's on high school, was his diagnosed with learning disability and can't seem to qualify for SSI. I don't know anything about SSI. Sorry. This is like an IEP group. Sorry. IEP 504s. I don't know nothing about SSI. So where is it? Okay, yeah. All right, guys. So we covered ESY, right? And we covered don't be afraid of the attorneys. Okay? At all. Don't. Just don't. All right? Is there any more questions, guys? I posted a link of how to get a hold of me on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is super easy. If you guys don't have WhatsApp, you got to get WhatsApp. WhatsApp is awesome. Oh, no problem, Karina. No problem. Sorry. So you just download WhatsApp from any of your phone's, you know, apps store, and then you, that's it. Then you find me on my link. That's it. But yeah, I never used to use that. I used to use that like Voxer or whatever. And oh my God, I love WhatsApp. It's like encrypted and secure and super easy to use. You can voice people, you can video chat, call people. It's really cool. So it makes it really convenient because I'm a face-to-face person, so I like that. All right, guys. So you guys on my group, what I was saying, I think the other day, is I'm going to start back once I'm done with everything come next Thursday. I'm going to start back with Q&As through the summer here and there. So definitely stay tuned to that. And those of you on the group, thank you for joining. And if you aren't part of the group, or those of you on the page, if you aren't part of the group, put in the search bar Autism Mama Rocks IEP group and join the group. All right. I will apologize to you really quickly because I'm really sorry that the special education system is the way it is. I do. Because it's so stressful. And it was stressful for me as a mom going through it. It's stressful for me as an advocate because I feel what you guys feel. And I get very emotional and upset because it's just wrong. And it just keeps going on and on and on. You know, you would think that things would just get better. Why is it that I have to come in and be a hellion for things to start happening? You know, for you to for it to break through, you know? It shouldn't be that stressful to get a child what's needed and appropriate. We're not asking for the freaking sun and the moon, you know? It's just literally what's needed in the educational setting. I'm not even asking you to give them what's best, which they don't have to, guys, okay? But they do have to do what's needed and appropriate, all right? And how's that so damn hard? I mean, the school system that is not that's giving the child 20 minutes every 2 weeks that's nonverbal of speech, I can't literally understand how educators think that that's okay. Like, I want to question that, their expertise and their knowledge, because that's just ignorant. Completely. I mean, if I'm wrong that I think that a child who is nonverbal should have as much speech as possible, along with the fact that they should be offered, an AAC device or in some form given to them to have the ability to speak. Why? Why is that so hard? I don't get it. Don't get it. So, yes, you have a good night too, Jess. I'll talk to you soon. So you guys have a good night too, and I will talk to you soon. And we will keep this going. Okay? I know it's the end of the year. Some kids are out, some kids aren't, but this is not the time to ignore your IEP. Okay? Emailing and getting going with things, being prepared to get an IEP meeting going within the first 15 to 30 days of school. If your IEP is not on point, if your present levels are not 100% accurate, you've got to go back to the table and you've got to get evaluations and your PLAF on par and 100%, because if you don't have your present levels on point, your IEP is never going to be okay. All right? All right. I will talk to you guys soon. See you later. All right, guys. See you later. And have a wonderful evening.